Hi, I'm Sunil Balasundaram, the pastor of the Conshohocken United Methodist Church, which is here in Conshohocken, Pennsylvania. And we are looking at stories that Jesus told as we go along with a series of devotions. And today I'm going to direct your attention to Mark's Gospel, the second chapter, and verses 18 to 22. Let me read these verses out to you. Now, John's disciples, that is John the Baptist's disciples, and the Pharisees' disciples were fasting. Some people came up and asked Jesus, "How is it that John's disciples and the disciples of the Pharisees are fasting, but yours are not?" Jesus answered, "How can the guests of the bridegroom fast while he is with them? They cannot, so long as they have the bridegroom with them. But the time will come when the bridegroom will be taken from them, and on that day they will fast. No one sews a patch of unshrunk cloth on an old garment. If he does, the new piece will pull away from the old, making the tear worse. And no one pours new wine into old wineskins. If he does, the wine will burst the skins, and both the wine and the wineskins will be ruined. No, he pours new wine into new wineskins." Jesus, like all the Old Testament Hebrew writers, was a storyteller. He loved telling stories. And here are a couple more stories. They look a little more like illustrations. But the setting is this. The Pharisees and the who are a sect of religious Jews and John the Baptist's disciples were fasting. And so people came to Jesus and said, those disciples are fasting. Why aren't your disciples fasting? Is something wrong with fasting, or something wrong with their disciples or with you? And Jesus told them, you know what? It's like you go to a wedding and there's a bridegroom and the bride and there's celebration. Who fasts at a wedding? You don't do that, but there'll come a time when the bridegroom may be and will be taken away. And he was talking about himself, when he would die and when he would leave the disciples. And then they would fast. He's not talking about whether fasting was legitimate or not. Actually, fasting is a legitimate spiritual discipline. Jesus is actually saying that there will come a time when that will be needed. But this is something else. Jesus coming into the world has brought in a new era. It's something new. And it cannot be blended with something old. And that's why he tells these two stories. It's like, you buy a nice pair of linen pants. They're comfortable. They really grow on you and you wear them month after year, and then they tear. So what do? You don't want to part with them. So you put another patch of cloth, and a very similar looking cloth on that linen pants. But after the first wash, it pulls away, it tears because the new one shrinks. Or you take wine and you put them in wineskins, because they used to make wine in wineskins there those days. And the wine would ferment and expand, and the new wineskin would allow it to expand along with the new wineskin. But if you try to be stingy, maybe a skinflint, or try to say, that's a favorite wineskin of mine, and put the new wine in those old wineskins, those old wineskins are just going to bust. You cannot put the new in the old. Cannot go together. Jesus is saying, now that I've come, this is the way. God has provided a new way to relate to him. Not the old way. Yes, we may think that, doing some things we've been doing over years traditionally, doing some things ritualistically, going to church, doing, sacrificial good deeds, and doing something over and over again is good. And we may think that's okay, that's enough. Jesus is saying, no, I've come now so that you can relate to me personally. The question is, these stories are asking, is, am I going to relate with Jesus personally now that he's here? He's come to be with us, to meet with us. Or are we going to rely on those old traditions that we have been so familiar with, we feel so comfortable with? Not that they're wrong, but Jesus is saying, come, meet with me. I want to be your friend. You can come to me directly. The book of Hebrews says, by a new and living way, we can come into a relationship with God through Christ. Relate with me. Then, after that, anything else you do has so much more meaning, has actually real meaning, and will bear fruit. But for thou, do you want to relate to him directly? Don't rely on the old ways. There's a new way. Jesus is saying, come, I want to be your friend. Be his friend. I wrote a prayer for you and for me, and let me pray it for us. Here's the prayer. Forgive me, Lord, when I think that whatever I do will win favor with you, however spiritual they may actually look. I realize that all you really want is for me to accept your grace, your undeserved love in faith, and grow in an ever-deepening relationship with you. Then everything I do will come out of that love relationship. Isn't that what pleases you most, Jesus? So here I am. Break me, melt me, mold me, fill me, and yes, use me. Spirit of the living God, fall afresh on me. Amen. Don't forget, go to ConchaUnited.com and see more of us, and I'll meet you next week as we look through more and more of Jesus' stories.